So I started my career as a lawyer. I went to law school here in Boston, and I ended up doing a JD MBA. So I studied both law and business, and I was pretty clear that I wanted to work with businesses. But I started my path in a big law firm during the dot-com boom. So a lot of the work was representing big corporations, venture capital funds, and venture-backed startups in the tech, life sciences, biotech sectors. And so that got me a ton of experience, right, initially in understanding here's how the trajectory of a startup works, here's how to get them financed, here's how they exit through a M&A transaction or a public offering. So I saw that entire life cycle and I learned a ton. And in fact, I was really interested in venture capital, right, because of its role in seeding businesses and helping them grow so quickly. And I thought I wanted to be a VC myself. But when I started to look at, who was I serving, who was I representing, who were these businesses, there was no one that looked like me. There were no women. And at one point I said, who am I making money for? Right? So who am I here to really serve? It's not the folks that I grew up with. So that it was just a little, seed that I had planted, and like I want to do that, but maybe there's a different way to do it. So after about 15 years of practicing law, and even in that career, a lot of my interest was how do we get more women into the law, more Latinas in the law. There's so few of us. Um, and such a need, right, for our communities to have folks that understand culturally what is happening, that I started a lot of different efforts, right, to get more people of color into the profession, both through an effort I started called Latina Circle, which became Amplified Latinx, a nonprofit that's building economic and political power for Latinos in the Commonwealth of Mass. A lot of the work was getting Latinos represented in positions of power and influence on boards and in elected roles, but also help supporting Latino-owned businesses, which are one of the fastest growing demographics. So doing sort of that passion work, right, on the side, but then realizing I wanted to perhaps start a business myself. So after my last legal job, I worked for a health and fitness chain that got sold to Equinox. I said, I want to start a business myself. So I created a reimagined play. It was a kids fitness startup. I wanted to develop Ninja Warrior gyms, crazy. But I saw this opportunity, right, to be able to do fitness activities as a parent with my kids, but also just this growing market. And I still think it's a great idea. I think today it would still make a good business. But I started to understand the deep challenges that entrepreneurs have. And I thought I was pretty well connected, right? I was a lawyer for many years. I had established a deep network in Massachusetts and Boston. And I thought, no problem. I know where the capital is. I know where some of these business resources are. And I realized there really are two different economies here. There's many, economies, but there's sort of this startup economy, innovation economy that has deep resources, right? Tons of capital, lots of incubators and accelerators. Not diverse, right? Not very diverse. And then there's a small business ecosystem, right? Which is sort of more tailored to Main Streets, works a lot with, entrepreneurs of color, women, and still a lot of resources, but not flowing to the right place, disconnected, siloed approaches. And so I had to search out, right, for tons of supports. I was trying to raise capital myself and saw how hard it was. And I realized that, someone that perhaps doesn't speak the language, is an immigrant, has a great idea, probably doesn't know where to go. And then they're starting from a low capital base, right? Maybe doesn't have much in assets. So starting a business is incredibly difficult, right, for folks that don't come from wealth. And that experience of doing it myself, of hiring my first employee, of literally putting everything in place, with all the knowledge that I had, it was eye-opening, right, to understand the barriers that some of the businesses we work with today have. And it made me want to transition from being an entrepreneur to actually being a capital allocator. So there was a point in time where I said, if I don't find a space or I don't find the capital to start this, to really get this business going, I'm going to transition into something else. But the whole journey made me realize that I was probably a better advisor and better at investing. I started investing through a program called Pipeline Angels, so an angel investing program to help more women go into angel investing to support women-owned businesses. And through that experience, it helped me write my first check, right? Personally, to understand, the barriers that these businesses have, but to also do collective, diligence, vetting of businesses with other women and using our deep knowledge together, right, to help support these entrepreneurs. I then met Deborah Fries, who's the founder of Boston Impact Initiative. I think it was back in 2018, and she introduced me to BII and to the model. And so I got invited to join the investment committee. I was on it for several years through COVID, the COVID pandemic. And in 2021, she said, why don't you bring all of these experiences from your work with Amplify Latinx, your work on the boards you serve on. I serve on 2 foundation boards. Bring that all into BII to help start our second fund, but also to take the work now more into systemic change through advocacy, policy work, doing a lot of the stuff she was already doing, but now I would call it amplifying it so that we can now start to mobilize more capital for impact first investing.